against the tide task in Costa Atardecer, Chiapas. Hello everybody and welcome to another special episode of SnowRunner here at OpenFed Gaming. I am the OpenFed. We were sent out in our PLAD 450 to check up on a Scout 800 that was stranded out here just a little ways away from the port. We're almost in the bottom left hand corner. Now we got to pick up the Scout, and we thought we'd take the PLAD because we got the crane with it. We can just throw it on the back deck and pack it in there so it won't fall off. Now we got to deliver it to the house. The house in the city, which is in the center of the map. Not that far away, but it's a little bit of a trip. Now here's the Scout. We stuck about 3/4 of the way into the water there, and I don't think he's going anywhere. So we got to go back the way we came. So in that case, we'll turn the truck around first before we pick the Scout up. That probably would be the easiest way. And there's two ways that you can deliver the Scout. Of course, you can, like we're going to do, put it on the back and pack it like cargo, or you can winch it up there. You can take pretty much any truck that you can use that would get through the terrain and winch it all the way up to the house. But we're using the truck with the crane because that's what we like to do. Now there's a connection point on the top of the Scout that you can grab a hold of. There it is. Then we're gonna, because the Scout is not that light, we're gonna pull the crane in a little bit before you lift it, otherwise you can't lift it up. And I like to have it, fairly decent straight so it's not sitting at an angle and maybe even slide off, because I don't know if it would or not. Probably wouldn't. But I like to have it fairly straight. And the one problem or issue that you might have, that I sometimes have, is if I'm parked at a little bit of an angle, you notice how it rolls back? I pull it forward with the winch and hold it there for a second before I let it go. And then it stays there. Because if you let it go right away, it'll just roll off the back. And I packed the little Scout first. Now we know he's not going anywhere. And we're off. Now we gotta kind of go back the way we came, because we're going to travel along the bottom of the map until we get to the coastal landing site, where we were at not too long ago, just a few videos ago. And you travel along the bottom of the map until you get about to the center, and behind the coastal landing site is a sneaky way up. So we'll get to that in a minute. First we got to get across this water here again. And the PLAD being one of the big trucks like the Avonhorn and the Kenworth, they don't really have a lot of trouble with deep water. And she just pulls right back up out of there again. Now we're just going to travel along the bottom of the map like I said. You should be able to see the coastal landing site when we come around this corner here, right there. Now when you come towards the coastal landing site from this direction, before you get to the little huts, just stay in this little trail of water, because it almost seems like it was a little river that came down the last little bit of it, but it gets better as you go along. Just follow this up. You follow the track all the way to the top and over the top of the hill, and it'll bring you straight into the south end of the flooded city, which is just below the flooded town, I guess they call it. Just below the city on the map. Now, of course, it's quicker said than done, because it's going to take us a little bit of time to do this. And you do still have to be careful, even with big trucks, when you're driving over this type of terrain. Make sure that truck stays fairly flat. And when you get into little dips like this, it's always a little difficult because the front end kind of falls in there, and it's really hard to figure out which way to steer it out. Now the PLAD doesn't have a big nose in the front. not like the Avonhorn. It's got a really big front end and it gets stuck in places like this every once in a while, which is a drawback of the big trucks on this type of terrain, of course. But the pros far outweigh the cons on this job, I'll tell you that. Now the PLAD is kind of like an overgrown Mercer R230. It doesn't go very fast, it doesn't set any land speed records, but he just keeps chugging, and there's very little that'll stop him. And if something does stop him, like that dip in the road, and this one up ahead here, it's only temporary. Until we figure out the exact way to attack that little hill, and we're just sitting behind a rock or something, I would imagine. And you move it over just a little bit and then we're okay again. And every once in a while we get confused as to which way to go. And that is always a problem too. But that's not the truck, that's just operator error. Sometimes those swampy areas like this, it's really hard to see where the track goes. But you can always kind of look at where the arrow is of the drop down box. It kind of shows you the way according to where you are, you know, the direction that you got to go into. And it helps sometimes, not always, because you're right beside you, you still got to go around the circle, but it's an indicator. Just follow the road out like I said, and we can see up ahead there is the flooded town. And we're just at the south end of the town, which means now we gotta go and crawl across that water to the left hand side, because the city is just on the other side of that water and up the hill. So we take a tight left here, and of course the trucks being as big as they can, and I'm used to driving the smaller trucks, and I didn't need to turn as quickly as with those as I do with this one, but that's okay. You got to make it across the water again, and then we'll be traveling along the beach on the other side towards the left, and about where you see the arrow, that's where we got to go up the bank. Just stay in the sandy area and crawl around the outside of this rocky area. So by the time you get around those rocks, you're on the other side of the waterway. And because there's nothing solid on the left side of these rocks here, we got to climb over top of them. Up this first little bump, and then one more, and then we can stay in the water once we get to the other side here. And there's a couple more outcroppings, and we can just bypass them on the water side. Yeah, this was just a little one here, but that's okay. It's a little easier on this side. And then right straight in front of us, you can see a little bush in the middle of that hill. That's where we gotta roll around that bush and climb up that little track. And as soon as you get to the top, you gotta turn to the right. That's where the road goes. Otherwise, you'll overshoot the road. Right up here. And here we are in the city. Now we take a left here and go right to the end. And then we can take a right. All the way to the end here. And at the end we take a right, and the houses are just a little ways down the road on the left-hand side. Now we're going to back it into the driveway, and I didn't realize, wasn't thinking about it, but I guess we could have taken it off with the crane and put it into the little area where they accept the cargo. But I didn't do that, I backed it in. And it's a little bit of a tight area, but that's okay. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope to see you back at Overfed Gaming again real soon. Until then, we've been driving a PLAD 450, picking up a Scout 800 that was abandoned, left in the water to do whatever. And we brought it here to the house, the task against the tide. With me as your driver, the Overfed.